All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to the last and final lecture of 20S947. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope that you appreciate how much we've actually covered. And so if at this point you think, well, I definitely haven't mastered everything in lessons 1 and 2, that's completely normal. I've just tried to give you everything that you could possibly need. So if you ever need it, you'll know where to look, and you can replicate them for your own projects in the future. So for the final lecture, I thought it would be really nice to cap this off with an animation. And I think animations are nice because they pull together everything that we've learned so far. And I think that they're probably the most engaging form of scientific visualization. So if you have a paper that you're really proud of and you want to catch the attention of the public, then you could, post the best figure from your paper. But, if someone just in the community was reading over that, they'd probably glaze past your, favorite bar plot. But if you put an animation of the biological process, a lot of people will take the extra time to try to figure out what's going on. And surprisingly, it's not as hard as it looks. It's actually very simple. Building an animation is beginner friendly. And so I'll show you how to do that. And let's jump right into Blender. Let me stop this. Okay, so this lecture will begin where lecture 1 left off. So in your lecture files, you can either start from lecture 1, or you can start from start.blend in lecture 3 files. Either one is fine if you want to try to follow along. But if you'll remember, this is the scene that we're starting with. And originally I was thinking we would just go ahead and animate this scene, just have the peptide come in, dock, and leave. But I wanted to take a second just to review what we did from lecture 2, because that was a very dense lecture that had a lot of important concepts. So I thought we would use the same things just to quickly set up this scene with a background, new texture on the protein, and also some nice HDR environmental lighting, just so you can see that process again. And it won't take very long, and hopefully you'll find the review useful. So the first thing that I want to add to this scene is more realistic lighting. So to do that, what you would do is you would go down here to your editor type, the little clock picture. You would click on that, and you would go to your shader editor. And this is where you'd find the nodes for any object. So you can now switch from object to world. And this is where we would find how exactly our background is being created. So you can see that currently we have black going into our world, and that's how we get the black background. So to be able to create a new environmental texture using an HDRI, you just press Shift A, click Search, and type in environment texture. Then you can take the color port and plug it into the color port of your background. And this is where you get the purple glow. And so you can go Open. And inside your lecture 3 notes, or lecture 3 files, you'll see that I have the Canary Wharf 4K, the HDRI that we used last time. So you can just go ahead and open that image. I still feel for this scene, it's still too bright. So if you want to, you can change the background strength. And I'm thinking for this render, 0.3 would be good. OK, so now we have our more realistic lighting in our scene. The next thing that we can do is I want to add a background. So last time we added a plane and just extended it all the way out. So there's another way to do that that might work better in this situation, and that's just to add a wall to the background. So you can just go to your 3D window, press Shift A, and you'll see that under Mesh, you have the plane primitive. So you can just click on that. It'll drop it in the very center of your scene. Now, if you wanted to rotate this so that it's more, because right now you have this edge of your plane sticking this way. So if we were to make it a wall, then we'd have the 2 points sticking up and down. So if you want to change that, you can see this little arrow over here in the corner. If you click on that, it'll extend some more properties. So what you can do is the z-axis is sticking right out the top of our plane. So if we wanted to rotate it, so just kind of like spin the plane this way, you would just go to your z-axis and enter 45. And that's just going to rotate it along that z-axis 45 degrees. And then if you wanted to flip it up like a wall so it's at 90, you could just go to your x rotation and type in 90. And so now you have your wall perfectly vertical. Now I'll go to my z orthographic view, and I want this to be far enough in the background that our depth of field effect blurs it out. So I'm going to move it back here, and I'm going to scale it way up. So you can take your scale manipulator, grab the white ring, and scale it up. So now if we look at where this is positioned, it's getting closer. I want it, so this line that goes down the center here, this is showing the path of your camera. So what we can do is take the move manipulator and drag that down so that it's in the center. And you can see it's getting closer, but I would like it to be perpendicular to the camera. And that's an easy fix. You could just go over here to X, and rather than putting it at 90, we could put it at 70, for example. And now you have a wall. So if we go back into our camera view, toggle the camera view right here, we now have our background completely filling. So now for the texture that I was thinking here, so it's far enough in the background that we can avoid textures. We don't have to worry about that. But it would be nice to have a color that was kind of blotchy. So if you were to imagine that you were in the cell and you were looking around, you'd probably see antibodies in the background kind of floating around. So I just want some very general, nondescript, hazy effect. So I'm just going to click on the wall, go down to world, and change that to object. Currently we have no material and no nodes applied to it, so just go ahead and press new. And it's going to generate your principled BSDF for your wall. Now I just want to have something to plug into my color. That's it. So I'm going to use the cement texture from last time. So Shift-A, search, image, texture. So we can just take that PBR material image of the cement from last time and take the color from that and plug it into the color of your principled BSDF. And then we can go to open, and I have it here in the lecture 3 files, so the 2K color from last time. We can just go ahead and open that up. So now let's go and take a look at what the render's looking like. So yeah, this is kind of the effect I'm going for. We've got some realistic lighting. We've got these kind of nondescript, hazy things in the background. It looks like they're really far away, maybe getting just kind of blending into the background. The next thing that I want, so for this animation, the first step, we're going to play with some lights so we can get the lights are going to move around in the scene. So I want a material that's not so smooth so we can see as the light reflects off the non-even surface. So let's add a principled or a procedural material to our protein structure. So if you go to the notes, I have in here a link back to BlenderKit, which you can also just go to blenderkit.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and find a material that we think will work. I want it to be shiny for sure, so a metal would probably work well. And these are nice because they've got some roughness, but they're not quite as uneven as I want. So we could try metal rough. And this is almost exactly what I'm looking for. So metal rough 1. Go ahead and click on that, get this material, and then just as easy as copy link. And then we can go back to Blender. Okay, so I don't see the material appearing in the left-hand corner. So that means I can go over to the BlenderKit tab, and I'll see that this I button is unclicked, so I can click on that, and you can see that the material now appears here in this corner. So I'm just going to drag it over here and drop it on. Okay, now in the image that we were looking at before, the roughness of this material was a little bit more exaggerated, which means that our structure is bigger relative to the model that they were using. So I wanted to go ahead and customize this procedural material, which is one of the benefits of working with a procedural material. So if you'll remember, so I want my texture is too small. It's too detailed. So the way that you can fix that is you can change these values. So change them from 1 to, for example, 0.3. And you'll see now I can start seeing that the texture is a lot bigger relative to our model. And also what I liked about it is it had peaks, kind of like that wrought metal effect. So I can go to the normals group right here, which is going to be our normal map. So the normal, if you remember, it tells it how light should reflect off of it. So if you want it to be extra bumpy, you could just increase the strength, make it more extreme how light's going to reflect. So click on that and change it to 2. And you can definitely see a difference here. So now we have this really uneven textured metal. Okay, so the other thing that we could change is, now that we've changed and made the background and everything look so much more realistic, I feel like the peptide stands out, especially the carbons, just kind of this gray texture. So what you can do is, if you go down to the nodes, it was off to the side, but you can just scroll around to find it. I'm going to make my carbons slightly metallic. So here you have this metallic option. I'm going to change it from 0 to 0.7. And you'll see that that will instantly pull the scene together a little bit more. Okay, so that was the quick review of lesson 2.